The alien queen towered above everyone in the Galactic Council chamber, standing at 8 feet tall with glowing silver skin and eyes like burning stars. Her voice echoed through the chamber, full of pride and amusement. "A human breed with me?" She laughed loudly, shaking her head. "This is some kind of joke, yes?" Everyone around her laughed too, the council of different alien species enjoying the moment. The human stood still in the middle of the room, calm, quiet, his hands behind his back. His name was Commander Eli Grant, and he was the chosen diplomat from Earth. He did not smile, he did not bow. He simply said, "No joke, Your Majesty. I'm here to offer peace. And if breeding is the way to secure that peace, I volunteer myself." The room fell silent. The queen blinked once, then twice. Her laughter stopped, and for a moment, her body tensed. Something inside her chest fluttered, but she ignored it. "You think too highly of yourself, human," she replied. Though her voice had lost some of its strength, Eli looked her in the eyes, unafraid. "I think peace is worth any price, even this." There was more silence, then loud murmurs. Some aliens whispered, some shouted in outrage, but the queen stared at him, something strange flickering in her heart. That night, she could not sleep. She kept remembering his eyes, the way he stood, calm and brave while others laughed. She hated how it stayed in her mind. She told herself it was disgust, or maybe curiosity. But when she looked at herself in the mirror, she noticed something different. Her skin had a strange glow, faint but real. Her heartbeat, always steady and slow, was faster. Her fingers trembled as she touched her own face. "This is nonsense," she said aloud. But her voice lacked the usual power. By morning, her advisors had noticed something. Her skin temperature had increased. Her heartbeat was irregular. They brought the royal healer, who scanned her body in confusion. "Your Majesty," the healer said carefully, "your body is responding to human pheromones." The queen's eyes widened. "That's impossible. The scan doesn't lie," the healer said nervously. "It seems the human's presence triggered a reaction in your biology. Your body is aligning." The queen rose from her throne, furious. "Remove him from my sight now." The guards went to escort Eli away, but he did not fight. He simply bowed and said, "As you wish, Your Majesty." And yet, the moment he stepped out of her palace, the queen felt it, a pain in her chest, a deep ache she couldn't explain. Her knees went weak, and she had to grip the arm of her throne. The healer ran to her, scanning again. "It's getting worse." "Your Majesty, what is happening to me?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Your body is rejecting the separation," the healer said. "It wants to complete the bond." "The bond?" she whispered in shock. "Yes," the healer confirmed. "Some ancient species were designed by nature to find rare matches. When the match appears, the body reacts, even if the mind resists." The queen locked herself in her private chamber, furious and confused. She paced for hours, remembering his face, his offer, his calm voice. She touched her chest where her heart was racing again. Her hand trembled. "No," she whispered. "I am not bonding with a human." But deep inside, she already knew the truth. Her body had made a decision. Even if she hadn't, that night, she dreamed something that hadn't happened in years. In her dream, she was not a queen, not a warrior. She was simply a woman, and in front of her stood Eli, not as a threat, but as a protector. He reached out, and she did not pull away. She woke up sweating, breathing hard. Her guards came in alarmed. "Are you well, Your Majesty?" "No," she whispered, touching her lips. "I think something is very wrong." But the part she didn't say, the part that scared her the most, was this. A part of her didn't feel wrong at all. It felt like destiny. The queen thought distance would cure her. She had ordered the human to be removed from the palace, moved to the far edge of the diplomatic compound. She thought that would quiet the strange storm inside her body. But it only got worse. Every hour away from him made her chest burn more. Her nights were restless, her muscles tense. And her thoughts kept drifting back to his voice. Not his offer, not his words, but the calm, steady tone that echoed through her dreams. Why? Him? She muttered to herself, standing before her private chamber's mirror. Her reflection stared back, glowing slightly under the dim lights. Her skin shimmered unnaturally, her pupils dilated, and her heart, still thudding too fast, refused. To calm down, she summoned her royal healers again. They scanned her, their faces serious, one of them even frowning in concern. "Say it," the queen ordered. "Your Majesty," the healer replied softly. "Your body is not only reacting, it's adapting." "Adapting?" She repeated with a sharp breath. "Yes," he said. "It's preparing itself for something ancient, something tied to reproduction." "That's impossible," she snapped. "My species doesn't bond with humans. We're not even genetically compatible." The healer hesitated, then said carefully, "Maybe the human isn't the one adapting, Your Majesty." "Maybe you are." The queen dismissed them with a wave, but her mind was not at peace. Later that evening, her advisor, General Threk, stepped into the room without knocking. He was one of the few who had served her since the early days of her rule. He stood straight and proud, but his eyes carried a shadow of concern. "You're not well," he said. "I am the queen. I am always well," she replied, even though her fingers twitched again. "I saw the medical logs," Threk said calmly, "and I saw the human today." She looked up sharply. "You what?" "He's in the gardens," Threk said, "feeding one of the palace pets, the Fraxel pup that bit 3 soldiers last month." The queen's breath caught for a second. That creature had never let anyone touch it, not even her, I think. Threk continued slowly. "You might want to see that with your own eyes." Against her own orders, the queen left her chamber at night. Wearing a hooded cloak, she stepped into the garden, her guards far behind. She stood behind a tall flowering tree, watching from the shadows. Ale sat cross-legged on the grass, feeding the snarling Fraxel pup with his bare hands, but the creature wasn't snarling anymore. It sat beside him, relaxed, like a loyal pet. "Good boy," Eli said softly. "You're not so different from the Empress, huh?" "Just misunderstood." The queen's breath hitched. She turned and left quickly, her heart pounding in her ears. That night, her body betrayed her again, her skin flushed with heat, her breath short. She fell to her knees in the middle of her chamber, clutching her chest. "Why him?" she whispered again, and this time, her body responded. Images flooded her mind, visions of old. From her ancestors, a memory encoded in her DNA. An ancient tale, long erased from history, a union of Tenmu. 2 species, one dominant, one adaptable, one from the stars, the other from a distant blue world. The queen cried out, her body shaking. She stumbled to the healer's lab, forcing them to scan her again. This time, she demanded the truth. One of the elder healers stepped forward. "This is not sickness, my queen," he said. "This is awakening." "Explain," she demanded, though her voice trembled. "You were never meant to be alone," the elder said. "Your ancestors once carried a dormant gene, one that waits for a compatible match across species, and the human is that match?" "Yes," the healer confirmed. "His biology is not a perfect fit, but it is close enough to trigger what has been sleeping inside you for generations." She stared at him, pale and silent. For the first time in decades, she felt like a child lost in the dark. The queen locked herself away again, her thoughts a storm. But the next morning, she received a message, a short one from the human. "I hope you're feeling better, Your Majesty. I meant no offense. If leaving helps you heal, I will stay away forever." She read the message 3 times, then she crumpled it in her hand. Her body shivered at the idea of never seeing him again. The ache returned, sharper than before. "No," she whispered. "You don't get to leave." She stood tall, breathing deep. Her body may have betrayed her, but her mind was still hers for now, and if he truly was her match, she would decide what came next, not fate. The queen thought she was in control, She had power, armies, planets under her rule. She had faced assassins, crushed rebellions, and broken enemies with a single command. But now, she was at war with something she could not see, herself. It started with the dreams. They came without warning, and they came every night in them. She was not on her throne. She was alone, wandering through endless cold halls. The stars above her felt distant, silent, as if the universe itself had turned away, and then, always. At the end, he appeared. The human, standing in the dark, looking at her with eyes that did not judge, only waited. He never said anything in the dream. He just stood there, as if he knew she would break eventually, as if he was not trying to take her power, but to share her pain. She would wake up covered in sweat, breathing hard. One night, she found herself whispering, "Eli," before she realized it. That morning, she made her decision. She would crush this weakness before it consumed her. She summoned her guards and ordered, "Remove the human from the palace entirely. Send him back to Earth, or send him to the edge of the galaxy. I don't care." The guards obeyed without question, but as they marched toward his quarters, something happened. The queen collapsed. It was not a faint, not an illness. Her body seized violently. She fell from her throne, gasping for air, her hands shaking uncontrollably. The healers rushed in. Alarms blaring, they stabilized her, but they could not explain the cause. "The body is rejecting something," one healer whispered. As if a vital connection has been severed, the elder healer stepped forward again, face grim. "This is no ordinary reaction," he said. "The bond has deepened, Your Majesty. You are not just biologically linked. You are now emotionally bound." "Emotionally?" she hissed, even as her voice cracked. "Yes," he replied. "Some ancient bonds go beyond reason. If the human leaves now, you may not survive." The queen stared at the ceiling, unable to move. A terrifying thought crept into her mind, not fear of death, but the fear that she might need someone. That night, the dream returned, but this time it was different. She was not alone in the cold halls. She was kneeling on the ground, broken and lost, and he approached. Not as a diplomat or a warrior, but as a man, reaching for her hand. "You don't have to be alone," he whispered in the dream. When she woke up, she was crying. The tears dried quickly, but the damage had been done. She sent a guard to stop the transfer. Eli was already walking toward the shuttle bay when the order reached him. He turned around slowly, surprised. The guard only said one sentence, "The queen has summoned you." Eli returned, quietly, respectfully. But this time, she met him not in the throne room. She waited in the royal garden, where few were allowed. The moonlight bathed her silver skin, making her seem otherworldly. But her eyes held something else now, not just power, but exhaustion. "I don't know what is happening to me," she said without greeting. "I feel things I've never felt. My body, my dreams, my thoughts. They all lead to you." Eli stood a few feet away, careful not to move too fast. "I didn't mean to cause trouble," he said softly. "If leaving is what helps you, I will go." "No," she said sharply. "That's the problem. I can't let you go." She stepped forward, her voice quieter now. "Do you feel it too?" she asked. Eli nodded slowly. "I dream of you, and I don't know why, but I'm not afraid of it," he said, "I think. Whatever this is, we're in it together now." For a long moment, they just stood there, the alien queen and the human man. No armies, no politics, just the night wind and the quiet truth between them. Then, without warning, she touched his arm. Her fingers were cold, but her touch made something warm ignite between them. And somewhere deep inside her, something shifted again. A heartbeat that wasn't hers pulsed for the first time. For days after their meeting in the garden, the queen avoided the throne room. She canceled diplomatic sessions, refused all visitors, and locked herself away behind steel walls and golden doors. But even there, she couldn't escape the pull. Every breath felt heavier. Every beat of her heart sounded louder when he wasn't near. The palace staff whispered, "Of course. They had never seen the Empress this quiet, this shaken. Once, she had stared down an invasion fleet and made it surrender without a single shot. Now she stood frozen in front of her mirror, wondering what one human touch would feel like again. Then came the attack. It was unexpected. An explosion shook the west wing of the palace. Emergency sirens screamed through the air. Smoke and ash darkened the skies above the royal dome. Guards shouted, weapons raised, chaos spread. But the queen was already on the move. Her instincts kicked in. The warrior in her rising once again. She stormed toward the scene, flanked by her elite guards, ready to destroy whoever dared breach. Her home, that's when she heard the second explosion closer. Louder, sharper, a blast tore through the marble walls ahead of her, sending debris flying in all directions. Before her guards could shield her, another figure dashed through the flames. It was him. Eli came running, a weapon in one hand, other gripping the injured Fraxel pup. His uniform was torn, his skin bruised, and blood trickled from a cut above his eye. "Your Majesty!" he shouted, spotting her through the smoke. "They're targeting you, not the palace." And then, it happened. A third explosion erupted behind him, throwing a chunk of ceiling toward the queen. Her guards were too far to react, but Eli didn't hesitate. He leaped, shielding her with his own body, taking the brunt of the impact. The blast knocked them both to the ground. For a moment, there was silence, broken only by crackling fire and the soft groan of collapsing walls. The queen opened her eyes, dazed. She felt something warm pressed against her. Eli lay half-conscious across her chest, his arms still wrapped protectively around her. Blood dripped from his forehead onto her royal robes, but it wasn't the blood that made her chest tighten. It was why he bled. He had no army, no duty to protect her. He wasn't her soldier or her servant, and yet he chose to take the pain meant for her. Slowly, she reached up with trembling fingers. She brushed the blood from his cheek. Her hand lingered, and when her palm touched his skin fully, something strange happened. A wave of energy surged through her body, so strong, so clear, it made her gasp. Her body recognized his, not just mentally or emotionally, but biologically. Every nerve lit up, every system aligned. The healers had called it a bond, but this was something more. She sat up slowly, holding his head gently in her lap. His eyes fluttered open, confused, pained, but alive. "You're safe," he whispered, even while bleeding. And she stared at him, feeling something she had never felt before. Not pride, not victory, but fear. Fear of losing this man who had no reason to care. She stood with him in her arms, shouting for the healers. Her guards obeyed without question, seeing a side of her they never imagined. When they placed him on the medical table, she didn't leave his side. She gripped his hand tightly, refusing to let go. The healers scanned him and began treatment, but they scanned her as well. One of them froze, staring at the monitor. "Your Majesty," he said slowly, "there's something you need to see." She walked over, looking at the screen. Her heart skipped a beat. There was something inside her, something faint but alive, a soft pulse, a second heartbeat. That wasn't hers. The healer looked up, stunned. You're pregnant." The queen stood frozen in the healer's chamber. Her towering form, once feared across galaxies, now trembled like a child. Her eyes locked on the monitor, where a small blinking dot pulsed slowly, steadily. One heartbeat, hers. The second. Not hers, not Eli's, but something new, something impossible. "No," she whispered. "That's not right." The healer looked nervous, unsure if he should speak again. "I triple-checked, Your Majesty," he said carefully. "You are with child." Her hands clenched the edge of the table, claws digging into the metal. "But my kind doesn't crossbreed with humans," she growled. "It's against every law of science." "Then science is wrong," the healer replied quietly, "because the child growing inside you is part you and part human." The queen took a step back, then another, behind her. Eli stirred on the healing bed, groaning softly. He was still unconscious, but his breathing had calmed. His blood had dried on her robes, a reminder of what he had done. She looked at him, the man who had dared to offer peace, the man who bled for her, the man who now shared a future with her in the most unexpected way. "I didn't choose this," she whispered to herself. But even as she said it, her hand moved slowly toward her stomach. A strange warmth flowed from inside her, not pain, not fear, just life. Hours passed in silence. Her generals came. Her council demanded answers. She said nothing, not yet. The palace shifted into lockdown, but outside the gates, the news had already started to leak. A secret like this could not be hidden for long. Whispers spread across star systems. The queen is carrying a hybrid, a child of Earth and Empire, a genetic mistake, or worse, a weapon. In a distant meeting chamber, the queen sat alone, no crown on her head, no armor on her body. She stared out into the stars, hands folded tightly. Behind her, Eli's footsteps echoed softly. He had healed quickly, far faster than expected. Human adaptability. The healers called it. He paused at the door, unsure. She didn't turn. "You." "No," she said quietly. "If I wanted to, I could end it now." "I know," Eli replied just as quietly. "But you won't." She finally turned, her eyes unreadable. "Why are you so sure?" "Because I've seen what's in your eyes," he said. "Not fear, not hate, just confusion. And maybe hope," she scoffed, though it sounded weak. "Hope is for the weak." "No," he said, stepping forward. "Hope is for the brave." She stared at him again, this time longer, then, in a motion no one would believe if they saw it. She reached out and took his hand, his fingers laced with hers naturally, without force. And for the first time since her rise to power, she felt small but not powerless. "There's a heartbeat inside me," she said. "A strange rhythm I never knew I could carry." Eli smiled. "That heartbeat. It's the future." Silence stretched between them, but it was a comforting silence, not the cold emptiness she used to know. Suddenly, a transmission alert blinked red across the wall. She pulled her hand away and turned sharply, pressing a control panel. A hologram flickered to life. It was the face of General Luruk, leader of a rival faction. His voice was sharp and furious. "We know about your abomination," he spat. "You dare mix your blood with the filth of Earth?" The queen said nothing, her jaw tight. "You are unfit to rule," he continued. "You will step down, or we will take the throne by force." The message cut off, replaced by flashing emergency alerts. Fleet movement detected, warships approaching. Her child had become a reason for war. She stood tall again, the queen returning to her bones. But now, she wasn't just defending her throne. She was defending a life growing inside her. One that neither side understood, but one she would protect with everything she had. The queen stood before the war table, her silver armor shining like cold fire under the dim lights. Outside, her capital planet shook beneath the shadow of invading warships. The enemy had come faster than expected. They feared her unborn child. Not because it was a threat now, but because of what it could become. Across the table, her generals waited for her command, but she said nothing. Her fingers rested on her stomach, where the second heartbeat thumped softly, stronger now, more alive. "This is not a war," she finally said, her voice sharp. "It's a slaughter waiting to happen. Then let us strike first." General Threk urged, his voice hard with anger. "Burn their fleet before they reach orbit." "They are not afraid of us," she replied calmly. "They are afraid of what I carry." Threk stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Your Majesty, with all respect, why not end it before it begins? One life to save millions." She stared at him for a long, quiet moment. Then her hand shot out like lightning, wrapping around his throat. "You ever say that again," she hissed, "and I will remove your head from your shoulders." She released him and turned away. Her heart wasn't just beating for herself anymore. Behind her, a familiar voice spoke, calm and gentle. "She's not just fighting for an empire now," Eli said, stepping into the chamber. "She's fighting for a future that none of you have the courage to imagine." Everyone turned to him, the human, the outsider. Some narrowed their eyes, some scoffed. But none dared speak against him, not after what he'd done in the last attack. The queen looked at him. Something soft in her eyes. "I have a plan," she said, "but it doesn't involve more blood." The room fell silent. No one understood what she meant. Not yet. Later that night, she summoned Eli alone. They walked together through the hidden tunnels beneath the palace, old pathways used long ago by kings and queens during civil unrest. "This child," she said, "has already caused more chaos than I imagined, but it is also the first thing that has ever made me feel human." Eli smiled gently. "You're not human." She looked at him, surprised. "But you care, you feel, you protect," he continued. "Those are the parts that matter." She stopped walking, placing her hand against the old stone wall. "In my world, showing weakness means death," she said. "But when I saw you bleeding for me, I didn't feel weak, I felt alive." They stood close, the silence heavy with unspoken things. Her hand brushed against his again, not by accident this time. Then the moment broke. An alarm echoed through the tunnel. They were discovered. The queen grabbed Eli's hand and ran, not as a ruler, not as a warrior, but as a mother trying to protect what little she had left. Explosions rocked the tunnels. Guards loyal to the enemy had infiltrated the lower levels. The queen led Eli through narrow paths, twisting staircases, and finally to an old chamber sealed in silver and crystal. "This is the heart room," she said, breathing hard. "No weapons function here. No lies survive here. This is where truth speaks." Eli looked around, the glowing walls pulsing with gentle warmth. "I've never seen anything like this," he whispered. She walked to the center, placing her hand on the glowing orb that pulsed like a giant heartbeat. "This room holds our genetic code," she explained. "Every queen before me left there. Legacy here." Then she placed her other hand on her stomach. "And now, I leave something new." The orb glowed brighter, sensing the child inside her. The walls shimmered, then changed. Images formed her and Eli. The child, the future of a new species. But outside, the enemies were closing in, their warships prepared to fire, their leaders convinced the hybrid child must not be born. The queen turned to Eli, her face calm but determined. "If I die," she said, "you run, you take the child. You protect it." Eli stepped closer, placing his hand over hers. "We don't run," he said. "We fight, but not with weapons." The orb began to project their shared DNA, a sequence, into the sky above the palace, visible to every ship, every soldier, every citizen. And in that moment, the galaxy saw something it had never seen before. Not an abomination, not a mistake, but a miracle. The stars above the palace turned red. Every ship, every camera, every eye across the galaxy saw the broadcast. The queen's DNA glowing beside Eli's, and in the center something completely new, a hybrid pulse, a life never seen before. Across planets, people gasped, some whispered fear, some awe, but none could deny it. The child was real, and the child was alive inside the heart room. The queen stood still, her hand resting on the orb, her other holding Eli's tightly. Her enemies had gone silent, their weapons powered down, because in their bones, they all felt it. This wasn't just biology, this was evolution. Then the pain began. Sharp, sudden, deep. The queen staggered, falling to one knee. "It's too soon," the healer gasped, rushing into the chamber. Eli caught her in his arms, panic in his voice. "What's happening?" "She's going into labor," the healer said, eyes wide. "But this chamber isn't built for birth." The queen clutched Eli's arm, her breathing fast and shallow. "There is no other place," she whispered. "The child wants to be born here." The heart room reacted. Its walls pulsed in rhythm with her cries, glowing with ancient energy. Every queen who ever lived had passed something into this room. But now, something was being born inside it. The palace shook, not from bombs, But from raw life energy, the child's heartbeat grew louder. Until it filled the entire chamber, Eli didn't leave her side. He held her hand, whispered calm words, wiped the sweat from her brow. "I'm here," he said again and again. "You're not alone." And then, one cry, soft at first, then stronger, a sound that silenced stars. The queen collapsed back, trembling, in her arms. A small creature glowed gently, silver skin like hers, eyes shaped like his, and a faint blue aura of energy around its body. The healer stared in awe. "This child is not just a bridge between species," he whispered. "It is a being of light." Eli looked at the child and then at the queen. Tears filled his eyes. "Is it a boy? A girl?" The queen smiled weakly. "Both. And neither. It is something new." Outside the chamber, the galactic leaders waited, some with weapons, some with fear, but none expected what came next. The queen stepped onto the high balcony, still weak, but proud. Eli stood beside her. The child wrapped in cloth made of starlight. She raised the child high. "This," she declared, "is the future you all feared. And yet it cries not with power, but with peace." Silence followed. Then one by one, the warships turned away. Generals lowered their weapons. Ambassadors fell to their knees. Because in that one cry, they heard something pure, a beginning. That day the galaxy changed. No treaties were signed. No battles were fought. But something far more powerful happened. They believed. They believed a human and an alien could make more than peace. They could make life. The queen returned to the throne, but she no longer ruled with fear. She ruled with something even rarer, hope. Eli never left her side. He was not her king, not her servant. He was her partner, and the father of a child who would change everything. And in the deepest part of the palace, where the heart room still glowed, the walls whispered the prophecy now fulfilled. A child born not of war, but of courage, of care, and of love. A child that ended an empire of fear and began an age of unity. A new empire began, not with a weapon, but with one cry.